Welcome everybody to the Giver Method channel. My name is Jake and I'm so glad you're able to join me. Now today I want to walk through and completely shatter one of the most limiting beliefs that I see out there that keep really capable people stuck where they're at and stuck from making the impact they want to make or living a more fulfilled life. Now, the thing that keeps them stuck is this myth that you either have natural talents and skills or you don't. And so I really want to set your mind straight on all the gifts that are out there, all the things that maybe you want to do, you see other people doing really well, like they can be developed, even those that don't naturally come easy to you, and I want to show you how exactly you can go and do that. So let me just paint a picture that might make this a little bit more clear. You might be like, yeah, that sounds like me, or that's exactly like me, or maybe there's something about you that aligns similar to this, may not be the exact thing, but listen to these three types of people, and I imagine that since you're watching, you're probably going to fall into one of these buckets, okay? So maybe you're a parent, and you watch other parents, you see other families, and you think, man, they've got that parenting thing down. Like they just have the instincts for it. They're just so good at it. Like, why is it so natural to them? Or maybe you're an entrepreneur who just assumes successful leaders were born with charisma and vision and that presence, those big personalities that maybe you could never, you don't feel like you could develop, or that you don't feel like you have. Or maybe you're an employee who's convinced that career advancement requires certain talents that maybe you just weren't born with. Like, if anything along those lines sounds familiar, or you could remotely see how that plays into your world, then what we're covering today is going to completely revolutionize how you see your own potential and developing these gifts into be superpowers. Because the truth is, and this is something that, as I've been in masterminds, in coaching groups, things like that, like high achievers understand this, but they don't talk about a lot out loud. It's like what we all call like natural talent is usually the result of early practice, some favorable environments, and a growth mindset that made development feel effortless. And it doesn't matter what part of life you're in, we can create similar things that start to develop that for you. So I want to dive deep into this and really unpack it for you. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It came out in November. And since it came out, it has helped just thousands of people have bought it. It's been an Amazon bestseller. There's tons of 5-star reviews. So like the thing that people keep constantly saying though is they're like, man, I love the book. I can hear your voice in it. And what I love is like, I'm able to actually put these things into practice. There's worksheets, there's actions, there's exercise. Like, it's a real like handbook, that gives you the framework how to go and create the life you want to live, create more impact, have more influence, create value for others, have better relationships, live a more fulfilled life, like all of these sorts of things. So I highly recommend you grab yourself a copy. I'll put a link in the description so that you can go get it. Now, as I talk through a lot of things, a lot of what we're going to cover is not only grounded in this book, but like the stories and things like are because I've been there. I've lived a lot of these scenarios. Like for years, let me give you an example. Like for years, I believed that people, successful entrepreneurs, and then especially the ones that could be really good speakers on stage, like they were just born with this charisma and presentation and big personalities that like simply I didn't have all of those pieces. I was comfortable on stage, like I wasn't scared, but I felt like I lacked some of those things. I avoided some of the opportunities I could have had because I assumed that I'd never be able to compete with those like natural speakers, and then I started to study different speakers, like the ones I admired, and I looked at them not as mysterious, like gifted individuals, but as like, people who develop a very specific learnable skill. And I analyzed like their story structures, their vocal patterns, audience engagement techniques, hand motions, like the way they organize their contents and methods and frameworks, all that sort of thing. I just like what I discovered as a part of that completely changed things for me and how I looked at any sort of natural gift or skill that's out there. Like what looked natural, like a natural ability, was actually a sophisticated skill, like a skill set that they developed through lots of practice. And when I began to systematically develop these same components and practice storytelling and record myself to improve my vocal deliverability and studying audience psychology, like something really remarkable happened. Like within a year, like people started describing me as a more natural speaker. I had no idea that like this systematic practice that you could go do that, and it was what's behind what appears to be natural ability was just that I need to put that more of those things in practice. I learned the skills that I didn't have. Like what I really learned though, like as I work on the book, as I cover any of these videos, I like to ground them in a lot of science and data-backed things. So like neuroscience consistently confirms that our brains, like they maintain remarkable capacity for rewiring throughout life, and we just don't realize it because we go into these default mindsets. Every ability you admire in others can be systematically developed through through deliberate practice and the right growth mindset. So today, I want to walk you through these 5 very specific strategies, principles, things that you can go do that can help you break free from this natural talent myth that's out there, and start developing any ability that you choose to pursue. Once again, everything I cover, they're not theoretical concepts, they're not woo-woo, they're actually practical tools that I designed specifically for busy parents and overwhelmed entrepreneurs, the dedicated employees, like who have, that people have used, like in these buckets, like people just like you, they've used to develop capabilities they never thought were possible. So of course, everything we're going to talk about, once again, is grounded in the GIVER method. If you want to get it off Amazon, showing you how to recognize those gifts to be developed into like the foundation for discovering and expressing their full potential, you can use the link down in the description. I'll also put all of the places where you can find us on social media: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, or you can always check out thegivermethod.com. Now, there may be some of you who want a little more hands-on support, which is great. I just recently, I didn't have it for a while. I just opened a few spots, like a few one-on-one coaching and mentoring spots. So if you're ready to move faster and break through like old patterns and finally start showing up, with action-based like confidence, like that type of things that we're gonna be talking about today, really start to develop those skills to be even more, then feel free to check out the link in the description. I'll put it there where you can go check out more details about the one-on-one coaching program. Now, if this topic is resonating with you and you've got maybe a stage, a podcast, a team, an event, or a community where you know that this could make a difference, well, I'd love to explore how we could bring this to your people and really serve them. So you can find the details. Once again, there's a link down below, Speaking Podcasting, that you can go check out, and we can get on the same page of what that could look like. And of course, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I always say like the video, comment your thoughts along the way. I don't want you to miss out on any content we put out, because I post videos every single day throughout the week, and I don't want you to miss out on any of this valuable content that could really be making a big impact in your life. So let's dive into these little principles, these 5 things, and really dive, so you can stop accepting limitations based on what you think you were born with and start really building your abilities, that can really transform your life. And so the first principle, the first strategy or whatever, is the technical term I always refer to it as, like, there's this neuroplasticity awakening, which is understanding your brain's capacity for lifelong change. Your brain can change at any age. I teed that up based off of what we talked about earlier. So let's start with that, because this is the one shift that can change entirely the way of what you see is possible. A lot of us carry around these old beliefs, these old belief patterns that we're either just naturally good at something or we're not. And maybe I'm not creative, I'm not outgoing, I'm too old to learn. If any of those sound familiar, or you've thought something similar along those lines, I know I've said versions of those to myself over the time, but here's what we now know. Thanks to years of research of brain science, belief, this sort of a belief is flat wrong. The brain is designed to change, to be reprogrammed. Think of it like a computer. You can just put in a new, upgrade the operating systems, upgrade the programming. You literally are wired for growth, okay? That neuroplasticity, which I'm butchering every time I try to say it, basically means that your brain can create these new connections and strengthen new abilities throughout your entire life. You're not stuck where you are. With how things have been. You can learn new ways of thinking, new patterns, new behaviors, a new gift that you didn't even know that you had. I love the example of London taxi drivers, okay, who have to memorize every street in the city, actually grow new parts in their brain throughout that learning. Guess what? The same thing happens when you practice anything: parenting skills, leadership, creativity, communication, emotional regulation. These aren't just talents. You're just training your brain to be able to do these sort of things. And so we want to dive deeper into that. So here's exactly how you can go about doing that. So here's where I want to start with all this, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to grab a notebook or open up a notes app or whatever it may be. And we're going to do a limiting belief check, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to start by writing out a few areas where you've caught yourself thinking, I'm not good at fill in the blank. I'm not good at tech, or I'm not good at, I'm not good at hard conversations. I'm not good at expressing myself, or fill in the blank. Whatever gift, or skill that you're or strength that you're sometimes maybe I've wanted, or I don't have that. I'm not good at blank. What I want you to do is I want you to add the word yet at the back end of that, okay? So think of it this way, if you're I'm not a people person, I'm not a people person yet. I'm not great at tech yet. Putting that yet word, just saying yet, is that small shift opens the door so big. It tells your brain hey, this isn't fixed. This is something that I can grow. It's not saying you're not closing the door shut. You're leaving your brain open to say the idea of oh, but that's something we're going to work towards. And so your brain then will look for the ways of doing that. So then next what you do is you create this okay, well, what have I already learned list? So You're gonna be thinking about anything in your life, that once felt really hard or impossible that now feels easy. Maybe learning to drive, maybe it's managing your calendar, or having hard conversations with your kids, like whatever it is. Those are proof, and proof that your brain has already changed through learning experiences. And then you want to keep that list handy for the moments when self-doubt will creep in, because trust me, no matter how far down the path you get, self-doubt will always find its way. Imposter syndrome has a way of tapping you on the shoulder and being like, hey, I'm here. So trust me, you'll want to have that list to refer back to. And then finally, what you want to do is pick one small skill you want to grow and commit to practicing it for 10 to 15 minutes a day. It could be asking better questions with your team, or it could be getting more comfortable with video calls, or handling toddler meltdowns with more calm. Like whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be big by any means. It just has to be something that is done daily, because with repetition, those new neural pathways get stronger and stronger, and what feels maybe awkward today starts to feel more natural in the weeks ahead. And this matters a lot because this is truly the foundation of everything else we're going to cover. All the things we're going to talk about, because once you know your brain can change, once you can see that natural talent myth is just a myth, you stop writing yourself off in that sort of way. You stop saying I can't, and you start saying hey, I'm learning how. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. And that mindset alone can carry you further than any single skill ever could. I mean, all sorts of data out there shows that people who understand this neuroplasticity sort of an idea are far more likely to persevere through any of the challenges they have, because they know struggle is a part of growth. And once you trust that your brain is built to grow, every limitation turns into more opportunity. Now, that leads us into all these other ones, but like I said, this is the foundational principle that's going to lead to the other four, so please keep that in mind, okay? The second principle is about activating your growth mindset, where you're shifting from fixed limitations to expanding your potential. That mindset flip, you shift from the I can't to the I'm learning, like we were talking about. Something I've seen trip up a lot of really capable people, whether they saw themselves as capable or not, but that's a different story. But it trips up people all the time. They think that their current skill level is equal to future potential. They hit a wall and they tell themselves well, I'm not good at this, instead of hey, I'm figuring it out. Once again, that shift, that simple mindset shift, it quickly shuts down before it ever gets the chance to fully take off. Some of the research that I was going through when I was writing the book say that people who believe that they can develop new abilities through effort, practice, or learning actually outperform those who believe talent is fixed. It's not about being unrealistically positive. It's just about training your brain to see hard things as growth signs instead of personal flaws. If you're a parent struggling to stay patient, it's not because you aren't a patient person. You're still developing that skill. If you're an entrepreneur who struggles with sales calls, it's not that you're bad at selling. I don't want to be salesy or whatever. It's no, I'm still learning to connect with my potential clients and show them the value that we're going to create for them. The moment that you flip a switch, this sort of a switch, everything changes. Failure stops feeling like proof you're not good enough. It just becomes data to learn from. Other people's strengths stop intimidating you. They actually inspire you, and effort stops being a sign that you're struggling. And it's actually that it's your path to real mastery. So here's what I want you to do. We're going to look at the language flip again. Like I said, it's so crazy how much just the way you say it, how you think it, what you say out loud can impact your ability for growth. So you're going to do this language flip for the next couple weeks. Anytime you catch yourself when you're about to say the I can't, or I'm bad at that, or whatever, it's just not me. Instead, replace it with the growth language of the not, the yet, not there yet. I'm still learning this. I'm working on developing that skill. And it may feel a little forced at first, but your brain listens to what you're telling it. This new language, it helps rewrite how you see yourself. And the more that you even say it out loud, if you're using it in a conversation with somebody, even more it's training your brain to do that. Now, next, what I want you to do is you're going to set up, you're going to create your own learning zones, where you pick one area where you're intentionally going to practice this mindset, where the stakes are low and your experimenting is going to be okay. Maybe it's, how do you run family dinner conversations, or how you handle feedback at work, how you practice public speaking in a safe space, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be, you have an intentional space for growth, not a flawless performance. That's what the goal is. I just want to intentionally focus on it from growth, not them trying to be perfect in that moment. Because that's usually where it hits hard and we feel like we crash and burn, is when we go from I'm not doing it to trying to do it in a large public sphere. So finally, what you want to do is you want to build a growth timeline where you sit down for maybe 10 minutes, that's all, and list out the things that you're good at now that, maybe once you couldn't do. Parenting wins, career skills, hobbies, even personal strengths that you already have. And when you see that list, it reminds you that growth isn't something you've already, that growth is something that you've already done, and that you can absolutely do it again because you believe your abilities are fixed. You unconsciously shrink your world and stop trying things that could light you up and move your life forward and leave you more fulfilled. But when you start seeing effort as part of the path, not a sign you're failing, you start giving yourself permission to learn and grow and really evolve from where you're at. Here's what's really cool. The people who adopt that mindset, you're going to show more resilience and more creativity, more joy in the learning process. And you're going to model this to the people around you, to how you teach your kids, how you interact with your team, your friends, and you show them it's okay to be a work in progress, which opens the door to real growth for everyone else around you. Now that takes us to the third strategy, principle, skill set, or whatever, and that's the strategic practice framework is what I've always called it, which is really about transforming effort into expertise through these deliberate development and progressive challenges. Okay, think of strategic practice framework, turning effort into real world expertise. Okay, one of the biggest myths that keeps people stuck is that the talent is what separates beginners from experts, and it's not. What actually moves people forward is called this, strategic practice. I'm not talking about casually doing something here or there. I'm talking about, this intentionality, where you're developing your skills through focused effort, targeted improvement, and the right level of challenge. When you start to see, when you see someone else who looks like they have that natural gift, what you're usually seeing as a result of years of deliberate work. Like I talked about at the beginning of the video, when it came to watching people as public speakers. Okay, they worked through things. They gradually stretched their abilities in smart and specific ways. They weren't just going through the motions. They were practicing key elements in that ability on purpose. The parent who seems endlessly patient, they practice emotional regulation through countless moments of stress. The entrepreneur who seems effortlessly charismatic, they practice storytelling and presence and connection through progressively harder situations. The key here isn't about is about working on this zone of proximal development, is what the scientists and brain people will call it. It's that sweet spot where the task is just a little beyond your current comfort zone, enough to make you grow without being overwhelming to you. This is where real magic happens, not from the years of casual experience, but from intentional focused effort, built in true expertise over time. So here's how we want to do this. First, pick one gift, skill, or ability that you want to level up. Maybe it's leadership presence or public speaking, patience with your kids, problem solving at work, fill in the blank. Then do a skill breakdown where you're going to ask yourself, what makes someone good at this? Break it into smaller pieces. Who do I know that's really good at this? And why is it that they're good? What do I see that they're doing? Break it into the smallest pieces possible. If it's leadership, it might be communication, emotional regulation, clear decision-making, listening. Once you see those pieces, you realize none of it's mystical. It's all learnable. I can pick one of those things and start to stretch myself in those areas. So then you're going to create that stretch ladder where you're going to think of the 5 to 7 ways that you could practice that skill. Increasing the challenge level each time, like a ladder. Weird why it's called the stretch ladder. If you're working on public speaking, maybe you start, by sharing ideas in small team meetings or presenting, then you move to presenting in a larger group or leading a workshop. If you're trying to work on staying calm with your kids, maybe I'm going to practice during simple conflicts first, then during, emotionally charged moments later on. The idea is to give yourself clear steps, not just a vague goal of I'm going to get better at this. No, I've got clear steps that I'm going to try and hit on within a period of time, and then set up whatever feedback loops you need to have. After a round of practice, take time to reflect, what worked, what didn't work, what did I do different? What can I do different next time? Ask for feedback where you can, whether it's from a trusted friend, colleague, family member, or even by reviewing it yourself, recording a practice talk or anything, and then just repeat it. But don't rush it. Just move up the ladder when you feel ready. That way, each level of success builds more confidence for the next as it's coming. This sort of an approach, so important because it gives you clear and doable path for building skills that might seem out of reach right now. I want to be a great public speaker. It's well, great. There's a lot of steps you could take. Let's just focus on the lowest rung of the ladder and then move our way up. Okay. It's not real talent that drives long-term success, it's strategic practice. And now here's a bonus. When you work on this, your progress fuels your confidence. Each level you master is proof that you can take on the next challenge, the bigger challenge, and it creates momentum that can actually be sustained, because instead of exhausting yourself trying to force growth, you're building it in step by step in a way that just feels so natural to you. Now we're about halfway through. We've got 2 principles left. So I'd love to hear any thoughts, takeaways, ahas that you've already had. Feel free to leave them in the comments. Like, what's been the thing that stood out to you so far? What area do you feel like you could be developing into that next level of skill? With that, let's dive in. I want to waste any time. We'll move on to the 4th one, which is this compound skill building strategy. So, abilities, we want them to become complex and what we can do, but we do that through simple skill combination. That's the compound skill stack, how we build impressive abilities one simple skill at a time. As we burst this myth open and we really start to work at it, like the idea of like people, like natural talent, like that they've got that magical ability that you don't have, right? But that's not how it works. We know natural talent is usually just a stack of those small learnable skills that add up over time, making it feel more impressive. The entrepreneur that you admire who's naturally charismatic, once again, odds are they built it over time. The same with the parent who just seems to be gifted with their teenagers. Like they probably have layered that through active listening, emotional regulation, boundary setting, and knowing how to communicate at that stage. Now the beauty is, like, you don't have to master any one skill to be an elite level. You just need to combine a few simple ones that work for you. And the more you build that stack, the more natural that gift is going to look to others. What's really exciting is, like, you're not stacking from scratch. You're already got so many of those pieces in you right now, and we're just going to be pulling them out and using them really intentionally. So what we're going to do is, like, here's how I want you to do this. Like, start with like a little detective work. You're going to do some deconstruction of the magic. Okay, that's what I call it, deconstruction of the magic. Think of someone you admire who is a great leader or parent or coworker, whatever. And then once again, you're going to break it down to small skills. What are the small skills? Like, are they combining to create that overall ability? It's not just that they're a great leader. It's like, no, great leaders have all these things that, they're a great team member to work with because of this. Okay, well, why? Let's break down those skills. For example, if you admire someone's leadership presence, like communication, active listening, strategic thinking, emotional intelligence, like if you're a parent you respect, like, once again, it might be organization, creative problem solving, calm under pressure, trust building. Like, and if you're unsure, you can even take that and use like a AI tool like Claude or ChatGPT to help you come up with, like, I really admire this about this person. I'm trying to figure out what are the smaller skill sets that I could do to help, like, develop to get there. And I guarantee that AI can even help you unpack that even more, or the people who work with us one-on-one, that's something that we can do as well. So what you want to do then is next you build a skill stacking game plan. So where it's like, I'm going to pick the 3 to 4 skills, when layered together, move me towards having the capability that you want. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Just ask, like, okay, well, what can I start adding right now? Like, well, cool. Maybe if I'm an entrepreneur, I could stack clearer messaging, better listening skills, and delivery follow through. Like, from a parent, it's okay, well, I'm going to do playful engagement and patience and teaching through modeling. Like, I'm going to look at how I stack those things up, and then you're going to create the layer and maintain rhythm of that, where you focus on one skill for the next few weeks. You're going to practice it in your daily life, and when you feel some sort of traction, you start adding the next layer while keeping the first one active. Okay, over time, this builds this natural rhythm of steady growth without any sort of overwhelm. And the bonus is, like, you start seeing results faster than you think, because stacking skills multiplies their impact. Like, this strategy, I've seen it be a real game changer for people, because it makes big, intimidating abilities people have feel so much more accessible to you. The people you admire, they're not magic. Anything, the world around you has been created by people who are no smarter than you. You just have to go figure out what that thing is. It's loosely based on a quote from Steve Jobs or whatever. But once you see, like, that it's just layered skills that they've layered to make look seamless. Like, once you realize that, like, the complex gift that you want to develop is within reach, you just have to stack simple learning parts on to each other, and, like, you start doing that and you build your stack, the more you accelerate your own momentum. Okay, now, this is the kind of compounding skill that building one of the fastest ways to create your authentic expertise and lasting confidence. It turns the, like, I could never do that, into, like, hey, I'm building that just one skill at a time. Once again, all about the way we think about it and talk about it, impacting the way our brain is wired. And now the 5th and final one, which is a growth confidence system. So building unshakable development, like, momentum through, like, the beginner mindset and progress documentation. Okay, how to turn the I'm not there into the I'm growing every day. So one of the hardest things about developing any sort of a new ability that I've seen, especially as an adult who is dealing with that, like there's that awkward like newbie feeling that we don't like feeling as adults, you know. It's tough on the ego, especially if you're already good at other things, and you combine that with your brain's built-in technology, like, and tendency to just focus on like, you can't do that yet because it's trying to protect you. Like, it's no wonder why we shy away from growth. So you try something new and all your brain sees is, it seems to notice like what's messing up or what you feel behind it. Once again, it's just your brain protecting you. So that's why this growth confidence system is so important and why it comes into play. It's about shifting the mindset back to being a beginner and seeing the advantage of that and not being a beginner as a weakness. You know, you build actual proof of your progress so you can't talk yourself out of it, because the truth is beginner status gives you this huge edge that experts often lose. The more open to learning and more creative and things like that, like you're less stuck in the like, well, that's the way it's always been done. You know, and progress happens fast when you pay attention. There's a book out there, 10x is greater than 2x, and it's because at 10x you're willing to burn the boats and start from scratch, versus at 2x you're just trying to like enhance the things that have already been done. So go back to the beginner of like, what if we started from scratch? Like, make it back to my beginner mentality and acknowledge it's okay to do that. You know, when you want to lock that in, like you do that, like you actively track the wins that you do. Otherwise, your brain's negativity bias will bury these wins, these successes, these proofs. When you combine the beginner mind with like simple progress tracking, my gosh, you're gonna see how fast you are growing. Progress really creates even more momentum and accelerates the confidence, and it's not any sort of fake, like hype woo-woo confidence, but like grounded, earned kind, where you're like, I'm learning to do I can learn to do anything. Let me go tackle that. So what you want to do is you want to start by learning to do like leaning into like this deliberate beginner mode. So choose one area that you've been wanting to grow in, whether it's parenting communication or leadership skill or a business tool or something creative, and intentionally step into spaces where, you know, you're new. Take a class, join a group, volunteer for something where you have to learn to fly. You know, the premise, like this is going to start to prime your mind to embrace learning instead of fearing the unknown. And then you're going to start to create that, you know, growth vault. So this is the simple space. It's a journal, a notes app, a doc, whatever, and where you create real evidence of your progress. And you break it down into sections. So you're going to have like a before and after examples. So positive feedback from others, personal confidence ratings, and actual outcomes you've noticed. For example, like you used to freeze in team meetings. Like I used to freeze up in team meetings. I couldn't talk. I didn't know what to say. You know, now spoke up twice for a week. You know, first attempt at leading a hard parenting conversation. Messy, but got through it, and my teen opened up a little bit more to me. Like, it's amazing how this vault will grow over time, and it may sound simple at first, but over time those wins compound and really get crazy for you. And then of course set up like a weekly reflection ritual, which most people don't do. Take 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the week where you jot down like, what are the wins or the lessons, you know, that one moment I grew. In the Giver Method book, at the end of, I believe it's chapter 3, there's a whole thing on like journaling and doing your weekly reflections, and I have worksheets for that you can get as a part of the book that help you to break this down. You know, what was the lessons? What was the moment I grew? You know, the power here isn't in just collecting big wins. It's seeing how all of the smaller shifts stack up, so you don't forget to celebrate, like, you know, milestones. Like we look for big milestones, like, well, no, I'm going to celebrate the little wins along the way as well. We hit a new comfort level. We nail a skill that once terrified us. Like, mark it, tell someone, write it down, like reward yourself in some way for doing that. It's going to create so much more resilience for you. It's one of the most powerful like ways that you unlock your potential growth, because it gets past the two of the biggest roadblocks. Like, your ego wants to look good all the time, but your brain's tendency is to ignore how much progress you've already made. So when you combine getting like comfortable, like with being new at something, and building clear proof that you're growing, you create that momentum that's hard to stop. You know, adults who keep this mindset on and track their growth are way more likely to keep learning new skills and chasing bigger goals, not just now, but throughout the rest of your life. And honestly, when you start seeing your own progress that clearly, it changes how you show up to everything. You stop avoiding challenges. You stop thinking like I'm not good at that. And you start thinking like, I can get good at that. I can learn to do that. I can accomplish or master anything I need to. You stop measuring yourself where you are and start owning the fact that you're someone who's growing every single day. And that's the kind of confidence that never is going to wear off. So I want to leave one final thought with you. Like, you know, those abilities you admire in other people, they didn't start out that way. Every person that you look at and think that they're just naturally gifted, I promise you, That's not the whole story. They built those skills, they developed them over time, and so can you. One of the biggest myths out there is the idea that people are either born with it or they're not. You know, what looks like natural talent is almost always the result of consistent practice and intentional growth. And the best part is it's something anyone can do at any part of their life, including you. We covered these 5 strategies, you know, as ways that you can, you know, start shifting how you see yourself and ways to get yourself out of the old thinking of I'm not talented, I'm not gifted, how you develop your abilities, how you remind yourself of those. But you don't have to do them all at once. Just pick one thing from today's video that stood out to you, one strategy that you're ready to try, because here's the thing, every expert out there like you admire was once a beginner. Every skill you wish you had is built in the same way, one decision, one practice, one step at a time. The smartest people in the world developed it the same sort of a way. So you can do the same. If this video, if this message, if it spoke to you and you want to dive deeper into that, then once again, that's where I would go. Use the link down in the description to get yourself a copy of the Giver Method off Amazon. It's packed with practical ways to help you discover your natural gifts, grow your impact, and build the kind of confidence that comes out of doing, not just wishing. It's a resource that you can keep coming back to. It's why it's a method. It's something you can keep working on that fuels you even when you feel like you're full, or if you're overwhelmed, feel burnt out. Like, it's perfect for anybody who falls in those buckets. If you want a little more hands-on support, of course, like that's where I said at the beginning of the video, I opened up a few one-on-one coaching and mentoring spots. They're open right now. They may close by the time you see this, but who knows? So if you're someone who, like, you want to have someone in your corner to help you apply all these sort of things, and it sounds like that's what you need, then there's a link in the description where you can check out all the details. Also, if you lead a team, run a podcast, host events, lead masterminds, community, whatever it might be, if you got any kind of space where people gather really, and you feel like this message or one like it could help them, then I would love to chat about how we could bring this to your audience in practical and actionable ways. There's a link in the description where you can do that as well. And then, of course, if this video helped you, please take a second to comment below. Let me know what landed for you. I love hearing what hits home for people. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications so you do not miss out on any of the new ones I post throughout the week. Because here's the thing, here's what I want you to leave with. Your potential isn't locked in by what you were born with in any sort of way. It grows with what you choose to pick and develop and work on. Where you are today isn't the finish line, it's just a starting point. And and who you want to become, who you could become even, that's entirely shaped by what you decide to begin doing today. So stop waiting for natural talent to show up. Start developing your gifts that you already have inside of you, just waiting for you to give them attention that they deserve. With that, I'll tell you, thank you so much for watching. Now, I'll catch you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day.